Okay. Hello, everyone. Today we're going to be going over taxes and welfare. There's going to be several videos to this. Going over welfare when we're calculating taxes, there's a bit more math. You have to be a bit more careful and attentive with the questions, making sure you understand what the questions are asking and making sure you know what points you're using you're using here. Like I said, I'm gonna have two examples, one with the tax imposed on the consumers, one with the tax imposed on the producers. There's gonna be several videos just to make sure that I can cover everything without being cut off, because I have a limit on how long the video can be for me to still be able to upload it to YouTube. So I'm just gonna get right into it. First, we're gonna be looking at a tax imposed on the consumers. So I have this graph, this example up here, and this graph down here. We have three curves. We have the demand curve in blue down here. It's this curve right there. PB is going to be 75 minus 3 QB. We have our supply curve, which is in red. PV is 5 plus 2 QV. And then we have our shifted curve. Our demand curve is going to be, since the tax is being imposed on consumers, the demand curve is going to be what is shifted, and it's going to be shifted downwards to represent this tax. And that shift is going to be represented by 65 minus 3 QB. And just real quick, I'm going to go over how I got that the shift is going to be 65 3 QB and why that's going to be shifted downwards. I believe it was covered in the lecture, but I'm just going to go over it really quickly right now. So the reason that this shift is down, the demand curve is shifted downwards, is because the demand curve represents the price that the consumers are willing to pay. In this case, this purple curve that's shifted down represents how much of what consumers are paying is actually being given to the producers, how much is actually being paid to the producers. Because normally when a consumer goes out to the store and decides to buy a good, the producer would receive the entire amount that the consumer pays in equilibrium without any price controls or anything. The consumer goes to the store, says, oh, here's how much I am willing to pay for that good, and the producer gets to take all of the money that the consumer is willing to pay. If this price in the market is set at $5, consumer goes to the store, pays $5, and the vendor, the supplier, gets to keep that entire $5. With a tax, though, the amount consumers are willing to pay and the amount of what they paid that actually is given to the producer is not the same. If you go to the store and you are willing to pay $5 for a sandwich, even if you go to the store and willing to pay $5 for a sandwich, you're gonna go to the store and be like, yeah, $5 is all I'm willing to pay for a sandwich. If the sandwich is $6, that's too expensive for me. I'm not gonna buy the sandwich. So you go to the store, you pay your $5, and the person making the sandwiches gets to keep the $5. But if tomorrow a tax is imposed, a sandwich tax, and now the government is taxing $2 for sandwiches, that's not going to make you think, oh, I guess sandwiches are worth $7 to me now. Like, no, that's still going to be too expensive for you. You think that, any more than $5 for sandwich is too expensive. So you're still going to go to the store and be like, if sandwiches are more than $5, I'm not going to buy a sandwich today. But like, if there's still $5, I'll buy the sandwich. And the person making the sandwiches has to be like, well, you also have to pay the sandwich tax. So, they take your $5, take two of them aside and pay your tax for you to the government. And then now they only get to keep what's left after the tax, the $3. So once the tax is imposed, the person making the sandwich is only getting to keep what you were willing to pay minus your tax. and I just put this as, wrote this as PV for lack of a better term to put here. But really what this is actually is the P is your PB after your tax. And I'm just gonna write it out like this. So this PB tax is what the vendors or the suppliers are actually receiving. You're still, consumers as a whole are still willing to pay this amount, and that's what the demand curve represents, the willingness to pay for consumers. But previously, their willingness to pay was also what was actually being received by the suppliers. Like if the price was, you know, like down here, if the price was, that looks to be about like $36, the full $36 at equilibrium would be going to the supplier. However, now with this tax, $10 is being taken away. This shift, since in this example, the tax is $10, the shift is going to be downward 10 units all the way along this curve. So at equilibrium, before they were paying about $36 for whatever good, and they're still consumers are still willing to pay $36. It's just that now 10 of those dollars are being taken away, sent to the government, and instead of $36, the supplier's getting to keep $36, they only get the 26 from after the tax. So that's why when we're trying to find, that's why this shift here, so this shift represents the amount that the consumers are paying that's actually going to the suppliers. So, and the way we represent that is just the original demand curve minus the tax amount. So in this case, our original curve is 75 minus 3 QB. Our tax is going, here's our original demand curve, here's our tax of minus 10. And so this is, once you do the math, simplify it down a bit, this is what you get. You get PB is 65 minus 3 QB. So whenever you see a tax imposed on the consumers, you're going to subtract that tax from the original demand curve, and that's going to give you your shift. Now, just really quickly, I'm going to go over these first three problems, and then I'm going to end this video, and I'll look at the surpluses in another video. But let's go through this really quick before we run out of time. So we're going to look at the quantity traded after the tax. And to do this, we're looking at after the tax. So this is going to be without the demand curve for a second. We're going to look at this without the demand curve because after the tax, this is what is this purple line, this shifted line is what is actually being received by producers when they're trying to sell their goods. They don't want to take a loss, remember, so they're going to see, oh, there's a tax now, I'm not going to get the full amount that people pay me for my good, so I'm going to have to decide how much I'm going to sell based on how much I'm actually going to receive once I take the money out for their taxes and stuff. So we're going to look at the tax curve, the shifted tax curve, and the supply curve, and we're going to see where they intersect. And so they're going to intersect right here. On this graph, I can read it's a nice even number. It looks like this is going to be a quantity of 12. You can also find this algebraically by setting the supply curve equal to the shifted tax curve. So you would, in this case, that would be 5 plus 2Q equals 65 minus 3Q. Just for the sake of time, I'm just going to skip the math, and this is indeed 12 units. Now we're going to be looking at the price that is paid by consumers after the tax. So we're going to look at the demand curve again, because remember, the demand curve is the willingness to pay from the consumers. This is how much the consumers are actually going to be paying as a whole. The shifted curve, the purple curve, is how much is going to be this shifted curve, where the shifted curve meets the supply curve. This is how much is actually being given to suppliers after the tax, but consumers are still paying the full amount. It's just that some is being taken away and as their tax. And so the way we're going to do this is we're going to just take our original demand curve, which was 75 minus 3Q. We know now that our Q is 12 units. So this is going to be 75 minus 3 times 12, and that's going to give us 39. And now we're going to be looking at what price the producers receive after the tax. And so again, it's going to be this intersection point right here. This price it's going to be lower than what they're actually paying because the tax is taken out of what they actually receive. But this is still along the original supply curve, so we can just find we can just plug the quantity into the original supply curve. So that's going to be PV equals 5 plus 2Q. We know that Q is 12, so we have 5 plus 2 times 12, and that's going to give us 29. And you can also notice here that our PB is going to be 39, our PV is 29, and notice the difference between these two numbers, 39 minus 29 is 10. The difference between these two numbers is the shift that results from the $10 tax being imposed on the market. So if you're able to find say the price the consumers pay, and then you need to find the price the producers are actually receiving, that's just going to be what the consumers pay minus the tax, exactly how we found our shifted equation in the first place. So I'm just to make sure I have enough time, just to make sure this doesn't get cut off, I'm going to stop the video here. In the next video, we're going to be covering the surpluses.